I couldn't return to Indonesia to make a third film there because of because I was banned from the country after the act of killing came out.
Mhm.
And so I researched oligarchs in analogous situations specifically, and I honed in on an oil tycoon from Central Asia who was buying a bunker like this one, like the
Mm.
one in the end for his family. He was involved with some pretty spectacular violence to obtain his oil concessions, and I went visiting this
Right.
bunker with his family. And I just was dying to ask all of the questions that electrify the end. You know, how would you cope with your guilt for the catastrophe from which you were fleeing? How would you cope with your survivor's guilt for the loved ones you left behind? How would you tell your story to a new generation as a way of revising your own history for your own benefit to ease your conscience? And I couldn't ask those questions. I realized what I'd like to be doing is making a film with the family 25 years after they moved into this bunker. I wasn't going to do that. So I decided I would make a, a fictional musical set in the bunker. Musical because that was, I felt, the genre that would allow me to explore the self-deception, the delusion that allows them to tell themselves everything was fine, even though they'd catapulted themselves into this abyss of meaninglessness. And also musical because I felt the songs would provide characters with the safety valve or the sort of pressure valve to where they could sort of express their longings and their desperation in a way that would be necessary if we were to believe that they actually could survive for so long pent up in this space. Well, thank you. Marius actually was in the project from the very beginning because he had
Mhm.
the experience to advise how to produce the music, and then he became the music producer.
Mm.
And he got involved with the writing of the music at the end when the songs were finished, but we were writing just the bits of underscore that play incidental music between the songs. He collaborated with Josh Schmidt on the writing of that because that's a specific composing skill that Josh, who'd never worked in film before but had written many musicals, didn't have to hand. So they worked together on that. And he also helped with the orchestrations. Janine was the first composer on the project, and
Mm.
she wanted me to help me
Right.
exactly to figure out exactly where the song should go, or help me refine that. She asked me to write drafts of the script where that would be where I would follow my instincts. And I came to quickly understand that the songs emerged out of these crises of doubt and anxiety where the lies and stories and delusions that the characters clung to so that they could maintain their normality were starting to fall apart as the girls' truths entered in. That out of that unease would come the songs. She helped me refine that, but then her mother got sick and she decided to she needed to look after her mother. And so she suspended her work on the project and nominated Josh Schmidt as her successor. Because the songs emerge from, as I said, these moments of crisis where all of the stories they tell themselves are unraveling, I knew they would be integral to the story. They'd be very important turning points. And what I needed was not a diverting or escapist, beautifully sung song. What I needed were these ballads and arias and duets that push the stories forward. So we have pushed the story forward. So we have some of our most important turning points happening in song, and they're dramatically very deep. I mean, the characters contemplating suicide in song, in catchy song, actually. You know, that happens with the father. That's the one song that's the pastiche, kind of a pastiche of a golden age ballad. And the fact that that's he's driving towards suicide. He's contemplating suicide and even commits suicide in the song. Is a huge task for an actor, and I felt it would be grotesque to have these polished Broadway voices. I thought that didn't feel true to the character. I thought absolutely we should have actors who sing in the right voice for the character, actors um, who and I thought the most radiant and radiantly vulnerable thing to include would be the true voice of the character in this moment of danger and crisis and longing. She's amazing. Like the other characters, her face registers every flicker of hope and longing and curiosity. And her face, that openness makes her immensely open, trusting, I mean. And that's, I think, the key to Girl, that she comes into this bunker full of trust and has that trust violated. And I also feel she has a naturalness in that openness. She's not fronting things. She has a slightly different tone, her performance, than the others. And that's something that I think, in a way, comes from her analysis of the role. It's not something she could be just as performative as the others, but it also comes from a sadness in her eyes, which makes me feel always like whatever trauma she's confessing to or disclosing as the source of her pain, there's always 100 other things that must have happened to her that she may not even remember. And that makes her such a tragic and heartbreaking and beautiful presence in the film. Felt that in the goal, I think that one of the thrilling things, the film doesn't have very much dance in it after all.
Right, of course, right.
But one of the thrilling things about the golden age approach to musical numbers, especially when there's dance, is that you can, of course, have exciting cuts in a dance, but what's thrilling about dance is watching bodies moving in space in real time and carving space. So you have the bodies that are choreographed and the camera that's choreographed with the bodies, and cuts have to be really for a purpose and used very sparingly to not be just a kind of release of the tension that's inherent when you watch a masterful long take in dance. So golden age musicals, I think, generally correctly, didn't have many cuts. You have films like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers that the songs are almost entirely long takes. And then we had this MTV influenced style of musical where you have just tons of cuts and multiple cameras. And I think that's just easy, honestly. It's just easy. And diffusing of tension and transforming of what could be a sacred moment into a pop video. And I feel like when I understood that the principle that gets the characters singing in this film is not that they're expressing their deepest truths too great for speech, but they're actually expressing their lie. They're doubling down on their lies in song, and that the truth would scream through in the silences that disrupt the songs, that often they hit a wall of silence when they sing, or the little rests and pauses in the songs. Once I realized that we were watching human beings in crisis, and it was essential to bear witness to them in that crisis. And that meant that also I wanted these long takes. And then I was drawn to the cinematography of Michał Krichman, because at least in his films with Andrzej Zjaginsev, there's something monumental, because there's something allegorical about those stories too, and apocalyptically allegorical. And I thought that monumental quality would suit the long takes of the golden age musical number, and also suit a story about the last human family. I want the audience to see these characters are nameless because they are you. This family is your family.
Right.
And at the same time, it seems to be a film about the future, but it's really about the present. I think all of us, when we define our families in an exclusionary way, that is to say, to the exclusion of the broader human family of which we're part, when we pass people on the street who need our care and we ignore them, when we maybe post a sad emoji when we hear about migrants dying in the Darien Gap or dying in the Mediterranean Sea, and then through that sentimental gesture of posting an emoji, shift our attention to something more fun. We choose each and every day to bury our heads in the sand and live in a bunker, just like this family. Right. while this story is a cautionary tale in which it may be too late for the family in the film, it is offered, like all cautionary tales, as an act of hope that there's still enough time for us, the audience, to heed the warning, the tale's warning, and that there's time for us to stop, look at our most urgent problems, look at the people we love, accept responsibility where we need to, apologize where we need to, and then get to work making change before it's too late.